Hey everyone, Alex here. Today's topic will be about poison builds. How to make from something simple to an advanced build. I'll explain also about weapons that I think will work and all that good jazz. So let's begin. Just remember that you don't always need poison attack up to level 3. There are weapons that just with their basic stats will work perfectly, which means that you can use many other builds. Not exactly or strictly speaking Camilio set or any other specific set. If we check the ailment chart, many monsters are weak to poison. The damage that I put on screen are way too generalized for the amount of poison damage they will receive, but it helps us to have a better idea of the poison's potential, with Camilio set or without. Now let's talk about some of the basic mechanics of poison. It is an effect that needs to build up by hitting the target many times. So what is a good number to build up poison? From experience, something that can consistently hit the monster, 20 is a good number. If you can't hit that many times, 40 or 60 may be a better number, but let's remember that just inflicting poison is also not a really good idea. There should be a balance between poison and attack to have the best effect of both worlds. If you haven't seen this video, I tested 2 poison lances, one that has 215 damage and 37 poison, and the other 245 attack and 32 poison. It sounds pretty similar, but those 30 in attack make the difference in the long run. So I'll put some weapons that make it work for the different classes. Just remember that this is an opinion. If you pick another weapon, it is completely fine as long as you're having fun in the game. Starting with lances, I recommend Basares Lance, as it has that sweet spot between poison and damage. 220 damage and 23 poison are good numbers for this weapon that you can consistently hit the target. This weapon may bring some questions about the sharpness level it has, but if you want to maximize its use, it has a rampage skill named Dueling Strike that benefits from being in the green sharpness level, making it the best option to inflict poison. For greatswords, the only good option that I see is Rathian, because it has damage, and that is what you actually need in slow weapons. Using Camilio's greatsword is something that I will not recommend unless you want to inflict poison in its first hit. You can do it, I've tested many times, but due to the difference between damage, I really don't think it is worth it. For the sword and shield, Rathian is the best option, because it is also another weapon that has that sweet spot between attack and poison. 220 attack and 28 poison are good amounts. Just equip it with attack boost 2 and it's good to go. For hammers, I would recommend Puke, because Camilio's has way less poison and the same attack. So compared with Puke hammer is much better. And I don't recommend Camilio's ult because it is not a really consistent skill. Also the Puke has 2 slots that are more useful as well as the attack boost 4. The amount of damage is not that great, nonetheless, that is the weapon I will choose if I wanted hammers with poison. For the switch shots, it's a bit complicated. Here I believe both Rathian and Camilio's, because Camilio's has 2 slots, one of those being a 3 slot decoration. So using something like a handicraft may boost this weapon into a good level, along with attack boost 2. So it is up to you, both weapons are good. For the insect life, I will use Rathian, because of the values it has, adding that attack boost 2 and it is all set to poison enemies. In this case, I don't think Camilio's weapon can work that well, to be honest. The difference between damage is quite big. For the longswords, from the poison tree, that big menacing side is the best option. That negative affinity may seem like something bad, but the weapon has a rampage skill named Brutal Strike that will make the weapon really good. This is also another case of Camilio's weapon in disguise. Ironically, Camilio's longsword doesn't apply poison. Dual Sword is really sad because it only has 2 poison weapons. I will use Camilius all the way. It has several slots and I'm sure you can make it work. Once again, adding that attack boost too, and it's all set. Due to the speed of the dual blades, 20 of poison is a really good number. For the gun lance, there are 2 good options. Here will depend from the user, but Puquet and Camilius look promising. Puquet lance with some extra damage from the attack boost 4 may be the best option. For the Hunting Horn, it doesn't seem to have good poison weapons. Most likely I will go for Puquet, however as a buffer weapon it may not be that good option. So it is really up to you, but that is what I will use. The Charge Blade, it has 2 good options, between Basarios and Poison Tree. Depending from the build, I will use one or another, because with Basarios, I could use something like Handicraft, bringing that sharpness up to a bit higher level, and it will be really good. But if you want to go all the way into raw damage, the Poison Tree weapon may be a better option using Dueling Strike. This one depends a lot from the build, unless you use Affinity Boost and Handicraft. And for the guns, they don't really need something that specific as they can load poison ammunition. So once the weapons are out of the way, let's discuss the builds. The most basic way to use poison may be getting a charm like this, which is not as complicated to get as Weakness Exploit with 2 slots. So this combined with whatever build, it's a good option. That is the most basic way. But we want something much better. We want to go all the way into the toxic territory like Smash players every time a new character is released. Here is where the tricky part starts. Because the idea of using poison now that we have Camilius armor set is that you need 3 parts in order for it to work well. Let's start with builds not complicated to get. First, using Camilius guards, sleeves and sash. I am going to leave the charm out of the equation because it heavily depends on RNG. So from all the builds I'm going to show, just imagine they don't have Weakness Exploit 2, and that's it. To throw some examples of what I mean with this kind of build being a tricky one, this is for pure sharpness. Depending on the weapon, sometimes bringing that sharp level from blue to white does the trick, as the idea is to have a balance between raw damage and poison. Also, having a white sharpness helps you to connect more hits. That, in the end of the day, it means that you are going to inflict poison a little bit faster, rather than bouncing all over the place with the weapon. This build has multiple iterations, depending on what you want. If you wanna go all the way for crits, I will use this. Something with a bit more of damage and affinity, this. Or this one, changing a bit of the charm, you could go for Critical Eye 7, bring more damage, or Weakness Exploit 3. So it really depends from this point. For what we have right now, being creative is a little bit complicated, but let's put something that will work just fine in 90% of the times, as it brings as much raw damage as possible, as well as poison. This is what I'm using at the moment, and it does the job really well. This is the only way that I found to bring as much damage as possible. With that, basically we are covering what we're looking for. Damage, Camilius Blessing, and as much poison as possible. I hope this video gives you many more ideas on how to work around the builds. The only things that I would recommend to play around are the lower parts of the build, because there is really nothing that much worth on the sleeves or guards, unless you want something really specific. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. If you like the video, give it a thumb up, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.